and unfortunate for the business, a turnover of wonderful people. People didn't stay. So mission drift doesn't happen from one big error. It happens when values stop guiding decisions. So that's why alignment is not just a philosophical topic. It's operational. It needs to be part of onboarding, reviews, whether they're tactical or strategic reviews, and even included in some job descriptions. Um, it's kind of something to the effect of do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so? There has to be some sort of conversation or dialogue. And true alignment means we walk together. When leadership changes, we walk the same direction, even if the pace shifts a little bit. Without alignment, opportunity becomes fragmented. With it, we preserve what made us trustworthy in the first place. So a shared mission guides complex decisions. Alignment prevents drift during transition, and values must be practiced, not just posted. Okay. All right, we'll go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So culture sustains what strategy starts. We've probably all heard the saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So I'll add culture eats talent, vision, and funding too if we ignore it. So it plays a part. Culture is not what we say in onboarding, it's what we tolerate on Tuesday afternoon. Companies that survive leadership changes do so because the culture was defined by trust and clarity. They had systems for peer feedback, so employees felt heard. Um, there's communication. It wasn't operating from silos. It was operating with understanding of what everybody is saying and hearing. They had norms that encouraged accountability without shame. And one kind of unwelcome thought was that in several failing transitions, the only thing that changed was tone in some cases. The new leader ignored established norms. The people started disengaging, and it was quiet in cases permanently, hence turnover. Um, and so the culture is our organizational name. Guard it like you would a reputation, because in many ways, it is. It's what defines the organization and the people and what you comment when you show up for work. Um, so strategy sets goals, culture sustains them. Trust, humility, and clarity shape culture, and then culture is formed by what leaders tolerate. We'll move on to the next slide. Slide 9, please. Okay. All right. So um, ethical systems protect the vulnerable. Ethics isn't just about personal character of the leader, it's about the systems that make corruption difficult and integrity easier. One of the most consistent correlations in research, including mine, is this. It was ethical structures lead to ethical outcomes. So if reporting processes allow for hidden decisions, well, one will eventually have hidden dysfunction. In one case I studied, a well-meaning CEO unintentionally created an exclusive inner circle. The structure wasn't wrong, but it lacked transparency. Even that circle began gatekeeping ideas and excluding feedback, and then innovation dropped. People left. That's the power of system design. And then policies either protect people or they promote silence. Uh, so in this case, I would challenge policies to be such that one acts justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. Uh, and this is not just for individuals, it's a blueprint for policy. Um, so that's something I would add to that. We'll go on to slide 10, please. Thank you. All right. So the compounding power of trust. Every thriving organization I've worked with or studied has one thing in common. They invest in trust. Trust is not built through slogans or speeches. It's built through patterns, consistent feedback, honest answers, and transparent goals. One can think of trust like compound interest. It doesn't feel impressive at first, but over time, it yields massive returns, better collaboration, faster problem solving, and deeper loyalty. In your own leadership, you must decide, will you choose short-term control or long-term trust? One leader I had interviewed summarized it pretty well. He says, I trust people until they give me a reason not to. Um, and that posture freed his team to take ownership. And when the CEO had moved on, the trust remained. And because trust, once most multiplied, can outlive the leader who started it. So here. So, so basically, trust is earned slowly, but lost quickly. Don't want to forget that. It takes time to build trust, to build that reputation within an organization. And it starts within the organization. It's not just an image put on the store windows. It's not just a theme that's sent out by email. It's something that's lived from each manager to the next, from the employee, from the janitor. It's lived throughout the organization. And so transparency, consistency, and honesty build trust. And trust multiplies collaboration. Next slide. Okay. Empowerment without abdiction. Empowerment is one of the misunderstood leadership concepts I encountered during my interviews for the research. It seemed to me that a lot of individuals thought of empowerment meant hands off, but empowerment without structure really is not freedom; it's abandonment. So, when one transition failed, it was because the outgoing leader disappeared the day the new CEO was announced. No documentation, no briefings, no strategic map, and that's not an empowerment. That's it's an addiction. And healthy transitions, leaders don't just transfer authority; they transfer understanding. They don't just say, "Hey, it's your call now." They say, "Here's how we got here. Here's what's at stake, and this is what we know so far. And next steps." That communication. So empowerment works best when paired with clarity. What decisions are delegated? What decisions still require alignment? And what outcomes are expected? When an empowered leader knows the boundaries and the purpose, then creativity flourishes. Uh, and so that is to state, one moment here. We'll go ahead and address the slide one more time. So authority must come with support. Um, for those who are leaders, for those who are raising up somebody else or mentoring somebody else, the goal is for them to be able to take on your role and to be able to do it without your presence. And so that patience, that guidance, that's lack of better terms, support should be provided. Um, and then clarity and expectations. Uh, Communicate what is needed of if it's someone you're raising up or whatnot. That's building equity within a company, by the way. It's raising capital of knowledge understood, which can then be implemented throughout later on. So Basically wanted to highlight those two items about empowerment, what it really truly involves. So we'll go on to the next slide, please. Thank you. Shared responsibility builds resilience. As many may agree, leadership isn't a solo act. It's a team sport. And continuity isn't preserved by the top layer. It's built through shared responsibility. And in my research, some small and medium-sized enterprises that thrived long-term had this cross-functional ownership of critical processes. It was basically the communication of responsibilities and needs with each other, and as a result, the teams, the individuals were able to strive and push in a single direction. So knowledge wasn't locked in silos. Culture wasn't controlled by one department. Everyone from frontline staff to middle managers, they understand and they the mission and knew their part in it, and that distributed responsibility, it created organization resilience. And when one person left, others had the context to adapt. And this is a trustworthy saying, Ecclesiastes 4:9-10. Two are better than one. If either of them falls, one can help the other get back up. And so that's more than a proverb. It's a approach. It's a mentality. And so create systems where people can speak into decisions, where mentorship flows freely, where a mission doesn't really rest upon any one person, because when responsibility is shared, strength is multiplied, and then there's a resilience that comes with an organization when that can result in a long-lasting organization. Okay, go ahead and move on to the next slide. Thank you. So measuring what you actually value. One of the items I ask a leadership team is, what do you measure? And I ask because what gets measured gets protected in some cases, and what gets ignored, more often than not, gets left on the back, gets lost. And so organizations can obsess over revenue or efficiency, which are important. They're components. If a company isn't profitable, how can they pay their workers? So those items are important. A good, solid business model. But what about mentoring hours? What about succession readiness? What about leadership credibility? How do we measure those or bring those to top of mind? So in interviews, teams that track towards these potentially considered invisible metrics were well prepared for transitions, and had better experiences to speak from because they saw something that worked. So culture, ethics, and legacy aren't soft. They're components that can be built within a company's strategic plan. Okay, so to put this differently, if one's only metrics are financial, then the people will eventually become expendable. So there's an interesting topic. This comes from Matthew 25:21, talking about being a good steward. And basically the summary was that for someone who is faithful with a few things can be put in charge of many things. And so basically that's to say faithfulness matters. So build a dashboard around things that endure. things that can live on within an organization. A dollar earned today, yes, it can be invested and put back into the company or paying bills. But what are those soft things that maybe we've overlooked? What would be components within the organization that would make us different, unique, and really position us for long-term success? So those mentoring hours, leadership, credibility, what we do, um, how we're upskilling ourselves within the organization towards that common direction. So next slide, please. All right. Structuring opportunity into organization. In too many organizations, opportunity depends on who you know or how visible you are to power. That's not always growth. It unfortunately can be favoritism. Um, and healthy institutions structure opportunity. In one business I evaluated, they created a rotation system where a mid-level leader was given temporary cross-functional assignments each year to understand how others' roles were structured, what was expected of them, and how it was tied to development. So basically, an understanding was built of each person's role, which allowed them to lead with knowledge and understanding, getting away from just barking orders, but instead, how can I lead and help others to achieve what's next for them? Not being a boss or a manager per se. It's being that person people go to lead through ambiguous situations. Being that person, not the person just calling, hey, how many calls did you make today, or stacking that's different metrics. So the simple design led to better promotions, fewer silos, and stronger leaders. And when opportunity is structured, it becomes scalable. Um, and in Romans 2:11, it says, "For God does not show favoritism." So in our cases, we shouldn't do so either. This means creating systems where advancement is tied to character, to contribution, to the what someone brings to the workplace. Uh, Not visibility, not politics, not charisma. And such structured environments, people don't need to lobby for advancements. They grow into it. That is leadership by design. It's something that can last. And think of there's actually a story I'll share. So this was with one of the individuals I had interviewed who was in the north part of America, kind of in the Michigan, Chicago area in Illinois. And basically the senior leader basically spoke about two individuals who were really rank to rank with with their qualifications, what they've done within the company. But one of the things that sorrowed him is, well, there's an opportunity that opened up, and he had to choose one of them. And so they were both great. What ended up happening is he only had a seat for one of them, so he gave one of them the opportunity based off of just the performance was a little bit better, just a little bit, but they're both great. And there's something that was unfortunate. What was unfortunate was that for both leaders who were setting up, and this disappointed the senior manager. There wasn't this culture of, oh, I'm going to congratulate this other leader who got the role. Instead, there was a bitterness. So what I would say in this case is, with companies that are growing and basically positions are slowly opening up, whatnot. A character trait that I would challenge individuals to have is, if again, given that there's no favoritism, if you're not the one to get chosen for this line of leadership and somebody else is, well, that's their time. Be that person that chooses to step up and congratulate him or her. That right there will stand out. And I feel pretty strongly that if my senior leader that I was interviewed saw that in another person, he would be amazed and be like, "Oh yeah, this next person, when there's an opportunity comes up, he's getting it." There's something really unique about that. So characters is a big part. So as we're kind of rising up within a company, what are we personally doing, and how to approach things that just didn't be for us? Learn to rejoice with others, and then when ours come, be grateful. Be grateful, and then lead well. All right, next slide. All right, what legacy really means. Legacy is understood. It's not about being remembered. It's about what continues on. Because what continues on today, tomorrow, next day, next year, 5 years from now is still impacting people, is impacting more people. So in SMEs I studied that had a strong legacy, it didn't just preserve their founder's name, they preserved the founder's values. And it was reflected through policy, through how leadership was set up, through culture. Um, and for individuals who want to see their legacy continue on, I would say, how do you enable a mission to continue on? It's one that still matters in today's context, and how others adopt it and embrace it and live it out. So a legacy that shows up not in profile but in the next generation success. That right there is something to be proud of. This means succession planning, knowledge stewardship, mentoring, cultural integrity. Um, it should not be disregarded as side projects, but they're part of your legacy plan. Um, Psalm 145:4 says, "One generation commends your work to another; they tell of your mighty acts." And so, apply that organization. One generation of leadership should prepare the next, not by preserving power, but by planting seeds, seeing that they grow, watering them, and that's what lasting impact looks like, and builds up the next leaders. Okay, slide 16, please. So the strongest organizations I studied had a common item. They didn't rely on a heroic form of leadership. They relied on repeatable systems. Probably be surprised about that. Um, onboarding processes could be executed without a founder. Budgeting tools were documented. Team norms didn't need consistent enforcement because they had been internalized. That's not a cold or a code or corporate directives. Rather, it's a form of stewardship. Um, and so, when we think of presence with effectiveness, how I consider it is this: um, a mark of true leadership is one in which, when stepping away, when the leader's not there in the presence, the system still works. Okay. Um, One interviewee went off to state something to the effect of when the founder had stepped away for a month, because of the systems that were taught to him, he was able to continue on the work. He didn't have to call the founder, the owner, because he knew how what values, what he should do in that moment. Um, that means you've got a system that works. And that means you have a leadership structure that is built off of a solid foundation. So, when that is to state, systems are your leadership in, in a situation where priorities, discipline, and trust and people are components. And so that's to say that how am I going to phrase this? Let your systems be filled with wisdom that is built through understanding how people should be treated, loving your neighbor as yourself, understanding what their need is, um, company knowledge, what works for the company, what doesn't. How can sharing that with others help them to do their job more effectively, so that others can continue to build uh, what was envisioned at first when the company was being founded. Um, so that's how I'd phrase that. So going to slide 17, this is going to go to a framework. So a framework being one in which when a next slide, please, if we can, please. Thank you. So when I built a transition model during my research, I constructed a four-part process that seems to work across a variety of sectors, which is assess the situation, prepare, empower, and then support. So that means we need to assess, know the current team, strengths and vulnerabilities, who's ready, where the gaps are. You can even consider Sun Tzu in the I believe it's a book called The Art of War. Know yourself, know your enemy, and know the landscape. So know what's going on. Uh, Number one. Number two, prepare. Start documenting now. Start conversations now. Preparation is not a last minute activity. It's a discipline that is implemented in one's day-to-day activities, as it applies, obviously. Um, and then empower. Considering what I mentioned previously on what empowerment means, it means giving the successor, the next leader, the one you're mentoring, the clarity, the authority, and the support. Um, Answer questions, making him or her stronger and what they're doing, being ready when they have questions, and just helping them to get to that new high. Let them lead before they hold the full title. That's a potential mentorship, that approach that can be considered. And then finally, support. Don't disappear. Stay connected in a defined advisory role. And so the transitions that follow a sequence seem to do better than those based on purely instinct or urgency. Oh, okay, we had a problem, so I want to quickly come in and rescue us from the situation. So that is to say, even change can be tough, but when prepared for it, when preparing for change, when preparing for company growth, one can take steps, and following this framework is one way to do so. So assess, prepare, empower, and then support. And also understanding a transition is not something that just happens in a single day. If that's something that's going on, and then frameworks bring order to insurgency. So have a process that you can follow, that you are holding yourself accountable to. Write it out, share it. Hey, are there with your colleague, with the fellow leader, are there key components that I should be including that are not showing here, and have something to follow in those processes. Okay. Next slide, please. Thank you. Opportunity through system design. So opportunity thrives when structure replaces chaos. Um, so that's to say, or one of the takeaways from my research is opportunity is not an accident. It is built in, deliberate, thoughtfully put together, and repeatable. When organizations rely on charisma instead of a process or urgency instead of foresight, people might get left behind, which is a problem. When systems are structured to promote clarity and fairness in session, the benefits are likely to reach more people, not just the senior leadership. Um, so remembering how can we bring everyone to the same stride when we're pushing in a direction everyone understands the vision, the values of the organization, and what we're pushing towards. And we're being when I say fairness, that means there isn't a preference shown on an illegitimate basis. So think about a workplace where promotions are tied to mentorship, not favoritism, where team input is invited and expected, where transitions don't halt progress, they reveal preparation. And that's what a faithful leader really looks like. So we're not talking about handouts, we're talking about engineered access, where people advance not through politics, but through process. So that is to say, in leadership, means designing a system to serve, not to succeed. Um, if our growth leaves others behind, it's not growth, it's extraction. Um, so again, so there's an employee doesn't understand what he or she's supposed to be doing. Take time, help them understand. Then when there's an understanding, they're able to continue forward. And I'm not speaking of cases. There are cases where there may be employees who don't put in the effort, don't put in the attention, don't put in the care, and now that's a problem. I'm talking about a company that doesn't equip, doesn't support, doesn't show that care component. Because when we're thinking about an organization that is growing, it's about everyone being able to grow with the company. Um, and much of our life is spent in the workplace. So how can each person participant of this initiative, of this business endeavor, how can each person take something away of their benefit? That is a company that has great meaning, that's building value, that's um, doing things in a proper way. So if our growth leaves others behind, it's not growth, it's extraction. And if our planning includes legacy, structure, and shared ownership, then it becomes opportunity. And then we'll move to the next slide, please. Um, thank you. So kind of what is the reflection and the challenge? Um, so as we come to the close of this conversation, in a sense, I would like to offer a pause for reflection. And this is your organization, this is your team, this is your leadership calling. Ask yourself, what system am I building right now? If I left tomorrow, what would it last? Would people, my coworkers, would those in my circle of influence be equipped? Would the values that I reflected and lived still guide decisions? And who am I training? Not just to do the job, but to carry the mission. Your legacy starts now. And it starts with the hiring policy. It starts with your mentorship rhythm, the approach to how you correct when there's a mistake, be it self-correction or you're working with someone else. Patience, fairness, honesty, um, your budgeting habits, Opportunity doesn't appear out of thin air. It is engineered, and it should be protected. And so that is to say, I'll quote another scripture verse. So Psalm 90:17 says, "May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us, establish the work of our hands for us." Yes, establish the work of our hands. I pray that well, what you build in your individual teams, wherever you stand across the world, that the teams you build, the policies you implement, the vision you embrace, that it would be established and it would serve far beyond each of our lifetimes. Um, that is the benefit of humanity. That is a challenge, and it takes effort. Thank you so much, and I'm glad to answer any questions that we have. Slide 20, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Jonathan. It's really a wonderful section. I don't know if I'm the only one seeing it that way, but I know that there are a lot of participants on this call that can also testify to that. So please, while giving a sounding applause to Dr. Jonathan for that wonderful presentation, I want you to drop in the chat box what you have actually grabbed. I mean, those nuggets dropping in the chat box. And while doing that, is Q&A section. If you have your questions, it's been almost an hour of deep section into insights on leadership, and so I know that by now we have a lot of questions running through our mind and where we need clarity on. So please kindly signify. I will give a couple of people access to come up and ask that question verbally. And for those who do not want to pick the mic, you can also use the chat box to drop your question. Then we still have Dr. Jonathan with us on this call to kindly help us provide clarity on this question. So it's time for question now. Okay, yeah, Ektelbert, I will be asking you to, of course, you can unmute. Yeah, yeah, host. Ektelbert, you have the floor. Yeah, I'm saying in the chat box, legacy is about being remembered. It's about, being it's about what continues after you. Exactly. Yeah, that's a very brilliant one. Okay, Ektelbert, okay, give me a minute. I'll ask you to a minute.
All right, thank you very much. Please confirm I can be heard.
Yeah, can you loud and clear?
All right, sorry about my voice. I would be a little bit low. Anyways, thank you very much, Dr. Jonathan. Thank you for that amazing session. I learned properly that whatever is measured should be protected, at least based on your comments. First and foremost, I want to ask, is it that there are some things basically that you may not have the opportunity to measure growth, right? I mean, for example, it's spontaneous. I mean, when you're taking up a task, for example, and you're new to that task, it's expected of you to keep track of it, yes. But there are some spontaneous actions or spontaneous things that may come up related to people management and you've not really seen before, right? How would you really keep um, instant protection? And it could be something that can just happen once in a while, or it may not even return or repeat itself again. How would you readily manage protecting such scenarios or circumstances, for example, in a workplace? I don't know whether that question is clear, Doctor.
So, what you're speaking to is spontaneous actions that are done within an organization. What types of spontaneous actions are we speaking to?
Okay, for example, let's speak to spontaneous reactions, not necessarily your actions, or spontaneous events, yes, that may happen based on you're learning on the job. For example, you're supposed to take up a task, and then a spontaneous action that you've not experienced before, and it's quite new to the system, and you're expected to actually handle that particular situation at that particular time, right? How would you really think protecting yourself first from reacting otherwise, and also as well keeping track and progress of that particular event, even though it may never repeat itself again?
Okay. I'll kind of speak to what I understand you're saying. So where would I start here? For individuals who are taking a approach within an organization which consists of a variety of actions that they take. They're not dictated, they are situational. Um, um, those spontaneous actions where, hey, I did this, it wasn't within my job role, whatever. Um, um, my understanding of your question, I would return back to one's personal uh, view of character traits, how you live out your personal values within the organization. So you have a coworker who comes in who's apparently having a tough time. Now, your job is to do the accounting work, to report to the CFO or whatever, various numbers. But you have a coworker who came in today, something's going on with him, and you, out of care and heart, take time uh, to speak with them. Um, so that could be something that an organization protects. Um, um, and because they took 15-20 minutes out of company time to address this person who seems to just having a hard time. So going back to organizational culture where people are a component of company success, this would be something to where a manager uh, in this case would show understanding and appreciation for the one coworker taking time to help the other coworker to cope and deal with whatever they're going through. It's kind of like being a family in a sense. So that'd be one of those components. Again, this is a very a vague topic, but how I would return it is a company can enable positive behaviors. It's not strict uh, line items that have to be checked off. Like, hey, you're supposed to be doing the accounting item, and you can't be talking or whatever. Well, in this case, there's a care component within the organizational culture. So that's how I respond to that. If there are specific questions, you're welcome to ask. But thank you for your question.
All right, thanks, Doc, for that precise answer to that question. And I hope that Octobert is satisfied with our response. All right, so I'm asking Alfred to unmute and ask this question as well. Okay, I think someone should ask Alfred to unmute. Please, Emmanuel, ask Alfred to unmute. You are the host.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc, for the wonderful presentation. I don't know if I am audible enough or is anyone hearing me? Okay, thank you. So my question is this, on one of your slides, talking about the organization structuring, being structured in such a way that opportunities are not dependent on personalities, but on system. And specifically, you had one of the boxes saying opportunities should flow from systems, not personalities. But I kind of really like that idea, the ideology, and it's really wonderful, such that it's not um, everybody gets sort of equity-based opportunity. But then, how do we balance this with another maxim or another reflection that is saying you create or you go look for opportunities or you create opportunities that you don't sit and let opportunities come to you.
Mm, mm. Um, so basically what I hear you saying is that some individuals uh, they treat opportunity as something that they build or engineer. Is that what you're speaking to, sir? Okay. So, and yeah, so in response to your comment, and thank you by the way, uh, by opportunity, we are able to have an influence on what is in our circle. We can make the best of what we have. We manage it well. It's an approach. It's a mentality. Now, depending on one's role within an organization, obviously, an employee who's just starting an associate, their ability to include and foster new ideas into an organization. Yes, they can bring their skill set and approaches and whatnot, and that will have an impact. But it'll be different for the founder or the management team who are able to adopt and implement and track towards the creation of new opportunities. So it depends in this case, but it is something that each of us do have the ability to create opportunities through our approaches. So that's how I'm going to best approach that one. So.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Jonathan. Thank you so much. I really gonna quantify how much I'm really satisfied with you doing justice to this topic this evening. I mean, if we are to continue with this conversation, I mean, if we are to ask Dr. Jonathan to keep dishing out information, and I mean, virtues about leadership, we might not be able to end this section today because this is what he has committed, his career onto, and this is what he has done a lot of work, within that space. So we can just discuss little out of the information that Dr. Jonathan have up there. And we really appreciate you so much for taking time to take us through this session today. However, we still have two more hands up, and I hope that after this, we're going to be taking more questions again because of time. And we also need to let Dr. Jonathan to move on to another activity for the day, perhaps. So I'm going to ask Victor to unmute. Emmanuel, please let me ask Victor to unmute again. Then we'll hear his own question while Jonathan responds to it.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. Jonathan. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Jonathan, for this presentation. And it's been powerful. And one line that you mentioned that stood out very well and that I've been thinking about ever since is when you mentioned that culture is what the management allows. And this is powerful because I've been around an organization where traditional wears, I don't know if you know what that means, cultural dresses are not allowed on some certain days. And a top management left the organization and a new one came, rather a new one joined, and he wore a cultural dress for one of those days. And since then, members of such organizations started to dress like that because if you ask them, they will say that manager, in fact, the CEO rather, no, sorry, the MD, they will tell you that the MD dressed that way on a certain day. So it is powerful and it stood out for me. And I used this scenario to connect to that. But my question is, because you also mentioned that culture is not what we discuss on during onboarding. It is what we tolerate on a Tuesday afternoon. So I want to ask, my question then is, what do you suggest someone do, or what action does someone take where in an environment where culture is just what we discuss, or some cultures or some things we are applying in the culture of an organization is what they do or what they discuss during onboarding, and it ends there. They don't really put it into practice. What do you suggest we do in such a situation, or if someone finds
For
themselves in a situation? I hope the question is clear.
so your question is like, how do I address an organization? So I assume your company or company you work within, where they have a culture, but they don't implement it and it's not actually tangible or seen. Is that correct?
You can respond in the
I
chat
mean,
box.
and you can, yeah, you can respond in the chat box if it's like a yes or no, or if you want to clarify in there. I'm watching time. Yeah, yes, perfect. Okay. So for culture, that's a very good topic. And by the way, everyone, you are more than welcome to, I'm actually going to see if I can do this. If you type my name, just Jonathan Smiley, Liberty University, I'm going to type it in here right now, just because I know there's a lot of people on here. So Jonathan Smiley, Liberty University. You're going to see a place called Liberty Commons. You can download my dissertation. You can then go into that document. It's about a 200 plus page document, and you can search the word culture in that document. And in there, you'll be able to kind of share, you'll be able to find kind of what I've seen here. So I'm going to answer the question pointedly, but before I forget, while everyone's here, I'm going to go ahead and provide that link, but you can again search my name. And that's going to be something that I think a lot of y'all can refer to. It's free. It's something that people have access to all around the world. So let me go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to answer the question. All right, link is provided. All right, so culture is something that is something that exists regardless, and whether it's prioritized and fostered. Okay, so the goal for bringing up the topic culture as a component is because we have the ability, especially leaders have the ability to form, foster, and develop a culture that that can last, and that is that works for the people. That's a good place and healthy place, not a toxic place for people, but then also one that is harmonious with the company goals. And generally speaking, a company culture will be formed through the articulation of values. What is important to the company? I've seen a big poster with a 20 different bullet points on it. I've seen in supply chain places, I've seen a huge banner across the wall that basically says something to the effect of take accountability for our actions and whatever. What I would say is it starts with the articulation of values, articulation of the vision, and now thinking of behaviors and actions that would um, be beneficial towards that kind of direction. Now, today we are in an age where artificial intelligence is available, so we don't have to start from scratch. For those who are have the ability to have influence on the company culture and to suggest maybe to management ideas, one can actually begin to articulate as a team values, and then they can plug that in and say, hey, to say ChatGPT, whatever tool, help me think of different actionables that can be spoken about and paraphernalia that can be used to help others to understand this new theme that is being adopted. And so that's how I would say you can adopt the AI in the present age, but then also have actionables that you are working towards. So that's what I would say for that. Look at the dissertation. There are a few examples of components of culture that I found were pretty beneficial, and that's how I'm going to answer that question. I know there's one more question. If we got some time, I've got about 3 minutes, and then I've got to hop. But I'll take that last question if it's still there.
All right, thanks so much, Doc, for that. Blessing, please ask Blessing to unmute, and you have 30 seconds to ask your question, so Doc can provide answer to it in less than 2 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jonathan. Quick one. I quickly want to ask, in certain organizations, practically that you might have worked in, that probably does not work with this your leadership style. How are you able to break into the organization, imbibe your leadership style, and not have issues with your bosses while at it? That's my question, please.
So you're basically saying you are or are not in a leadership role. You can type, and I'm reading here. If you want to type in the text box, I'll read it. So just please specify if you are in the leadership role or if you're not. You are, okay. And are you basically talking about how you should respond to those over you, or are you the one who's in charge? I'm looking
Okay,
through
you are not fully in charge. You have bosses, you have directors, you have CEOs that you're reporting to. Let's say you're like the HRM, head of HRM, human head hunter in the organization. You're having those you're reporting to, but you believe their system of leadership is not dynamic and it can be better. You're trying to bring in your way of or your style of leadership, but it's outrightly being opposed. How did you cope if there were ever such situations for you?
Okay, so you basically have a leadership approach that is different than what is currently being used, and you are experiencing resistance from those above you, correct? Or are you receiving resistance from those below you?
Yes, from those above you, your style of leadership differs
Okay.
from theirs. They are just after
Okay,
the
so
job
you're
to
being
be done.
gotcha. Okay. This could be a tough one. It'd be helpful to have a little bit more context for, like, for instance, what's exactly going on within your organization. Things I would look at is, hey, is a general sense of ethicality existing? People doing the right things? Are people making decisions that are in best of the people within the organization? Or is this a situation where maybe some leaders just unfortunately have a toxicity to their current approach? So there are multiple of components that I would be looking at, because one of the quickest things that one can do is offer advice and then it actually not be really applicable to your situation. So what I would say is, if you could ping me, you've got my email. I think you should be able to reach out to the person who put together this information. I'm also able to provide my email. So how about that? I'll provide my email here. You can, any of y'all who have questions, you're welcome to email me. But that's one where I'd want to get a little bit more context. I'm going to go ahead and put it here. And then what I'll do is I'll take some time to address that. But I wouldn't want to go in, offer input, and then it not really be super helpful. So I'll go ahead and start off with that. So I know you're looking for an answer right now, but again, I think it'd be more beneficial to have a little bit more context.
Yeah, thank you so much. Once again, it's really been a wonderful section. Doc, are you still saying something?
Yes, please move.
Yeah, well,
Oh, Dr. Smiley, please go on.
Okay. Well, I've got a hard stop. Thank you, everyone, for having me. You are welcome to
No, Dr.
send me an
Jonathan,
email if you have any.
just before you leave,
Yeah.
Exactly.
please,
Want
could you
to?
go to the award? We would send that to you later.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Okay.
we want to really appreciate you for taking the time to share this wonderful session and for opening the camp at 6. So on behalf of the camp, we are happy to present you with this honorary award. And we'll be sending it to you by email then, the high resolution. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so very much. I appreciate that, and thank you, everyone. Y'all have a wonderful day, or evening. Excuse me. I know it's a little bit late for y'all. If it's my understanding, it's about 9 or 10 o'clock over there right now. So y'all take care. Bye bye now.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Smiley. Good to see you. Okay, all right. So thank you so much. At this moment, I'm going to bring up the leadership of the planning team for this event. I don't know if Etelbert is on this call, but I'm sure he is. So Etelbert, please come up. I'm handing over to you. I need the words of I mean vote of thanks from you for the first day, for the source of the first day of the camp at 6 years anniversary. Then thereafter, yeah. So, Etelbert, over to you, please. Let me know if you are muted, then I'll ask you to unmute.
Everyone.
Oh, okay, all right. Then you're welcome. We can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. Okay,
Good
this
evening.
is all that the planning committee saying thank you for participating on the one of the camp at 6th anniversary. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be anticipating your presence tomorrow. Please ensure that you inform your friends. They can actually join us through live on a YouTube channel. So please, once we start, 8 is the time, 8 p.m. prompt. We won't be wasting 5 minutes. 5 minutes after 5, we are ushering in our speakers so that we can give them enough time to be able to share the knowledge they want to share with us. So please and please come up, come one, come two, and call your friends to join this call. Thank you so very much for being with us today. You have an amazing night.
Yeah, and ensure you are filled the attendance after the meeting. Before you could you hold on to the meeting a bit more, Collins? You can stop recording.
All right, Doc.
So keep the meeting open for the next 5 minutes so that those